Whether it's Gretzky's 99 or Lemieux's 66, the number a player wears is part of their identity. But not every player has a number 2 himself. Most share with other players. We thought it was time to settle this, and who better to decide than the NHL.com writers? They voted on every number, 1 to 99. Some were unanimous, and some were close calls. We'll reveal the results and bring in some familiar faces to give their thoughts. It's time to debate who wore it best. Welcome to NHL's Who Wore It Best. I'm Tony Luffman. Today we go from 60 down to 31, and there are some closer calls here. But the first 5 selections, not in doubt. Let's reveal those right now. We pick it up at 55 and trading places into the seats of our experts, Keith Jones and Kelly Hrudey. I say trading places because, Kelly Hrudey, if the 80s belonged to Eddie Murphy, and they did, think back to all the great movies he made, the 90s belonged to Larry Murphy, the only NHLer to win 4 cup rings that decade. Is he your guy at 55?
Yes. Larry Murphy is my guy for many, many reasons. So he had not only a really hard shot, but an accurate shot. And why that's important, because a lot of defensemen with that big bomb, they just try and power that shot through you. Larry, I found, used that accuracy incredibly well. Second, he had an ability to join the rush maybe better than anyone at the time. He could have been the Calder Trophy his rookie year. Peter Stastny, though, came over from Europe. He had a 4-year advantage. I think Larry was 19, Stastny was 23. So for many reasons, I think Larry Murphy is the best to wear 55.
He was ahead of his time. He was a unique player and often would allow you to go in the corner first. Larry could fall under the wrath of some fans who, in Washington, they had what they called the whoop. They would whoop, whoop every time Larry touched the puck, and that's how they chased defensemen out of town, that they didn't appreciate their style of play. Larry took all of that, never changed his game, played for multiple teams, and made great teams better. He would also be my choice, but Sergei Gonchar is another 55 that comes to mind. I remember when Sergei arrived from Russia to the Washington Capitals. We were teammates, became friends quickly. He was a really quiet but determined athlete, and it didn't happen overnight. I can remember back to being at a game in Ottawa, and Jim Schoenfeld, our coach between periods, singled out Sergei and asked him if he enjoyed seafood. And we were all a little confused about it, and nobody was more confused than Sergei, but Portland was our farm team at the time. And Shoney wasn't appreciating Sergei's effort on this particular night. So eventually, Shoney explained it in a different terminology where Sergei got the message, and to his credit, played a lot better after that. So he did win a Stanley Cup with Pittsburgh, and he's continuing to win cups, helping them out behind the bench with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Terrific guy and a great teammate, and he's in the conversation, but Larry Murphy would be the guy.
Terrific story, Keith. Well told. Kelly, you're so high on a modern day, present day 55.
I've had my eye on Scheifele for a number of years, like most hockey analysts have. And I'm going to go out on a limb. He's only 27 years old, so he's going to have to get after it. But I think when his career is finally completed, and when we look back, we may have the opportunity to say Scheifele may surpass Larry Murphy as the greatest 55. I love his mind for hockey. I love the way he thinks the game on the ice and off the ice. I'll call him a hockey nerd. You know, here's a guy that loves to play the game. You can tell his passion on the ice every single game. But when he's not on the ice, what's he doing? He's watching hockey. He can't get enough of it. Maybe we will have the conversation that he's up there with Larry Murphy.
Excellent point. We think about the guys that we interview over the course of the season. He's one of those guys. It wouldn't surprise any of us to see him in a front office when he's done playing, perhaps even as a GM. Let's get the opinion of the NHL.com writers. Nick KOTSONIKA, what was the answer from those writers, Nick, who wore it best? Number 55.
Larry Murphy was the clear-cut choice for us. He wore 5 and 8 in the early part of his career, but he wore 55 when he won the Cup back-to-back with Pittsburgh in 91 and 92. And he wore 55 when he did it again with Detroit in 97 and 98. And if you look at those second 2 championships, I think he was the greatest trade deadline pickup of all time. He was supposed to be too old, too slow, and too expensive in Toronto. The Red Wings get him basically as a salary dump. And he partners with number 5, Nick Lidstrom, incredibly. He was the only player to win the Cup 4 times in the 90s. He's 5th among defensemen all time in scoring. He's in the Hall of Fame, and he's our choice at number 55.
Great info, Nick. I just got a text from Butch Goring asking, has Nick KOTSONIKA heard of me? Trade deadline pickups. One can never predict how Butch is going to react. We do know this. It's time for our first time out. When we return, we go from number 54 down to 41, and then our next debate. 3 Stanley Cup champions were the top vote getters at 40. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to NHL's Who Wore It Best. We just saw Jaro HALAK, a 9th round pick. We always hear it doesn't matter, except for that one day where you get drafted, you can prove your talents in the NHL. We're, of course, joined by Keith Jones, who knows about being a late round draft pick, alongside Kelly Hrudey. Jonesy, a 7th rounder, played over 500 games. Among your choices at 40 is a guy that went in the 7th round and had an amazing career. Detroit Red Wings fans love them some Henrik Zetterberg. What do you think of him?
He's my pick, and I loved watching him play. I mean, I think he was obviously an extremely gifted player. He had a outstanding ability to push his level of work as a game would move along. He never appeared to get tired, and if he did, he worked through it. He had the type of career that whoever played with Henrik Zetterberg played better than I think they would have with other players. After Lidstrom had retired, the Red Wings looked to a player like Zetterberg for good reason. Of all the number 40s, in my eyes, Henrik Zetterberg wore it the best.
Lofty praise for him. Now, Kelly, I'm coming right back to you because a goalie at this number really impressed you. During last year's Stanley Cup final, there were some that said Tuukka Rask could have been the Conn Smythe winner, even if Boston lost. You're one of those people. You really admired how consistent he was. How was he able to be so consistent?
Well, I think, again, it's about how he thinks the game. And so I think to a certain degree, Rask is underrated because of the team that he plays for. And I think there's a feeling out there that he's protected more than some of the other goalies. I don't know if I'm in that same category. I firmly believe that the Bruins would not have gotten to the Stanley Cup finals without the play of Rask. He was phenomenal. So I don't have a vote on the Conn Smythe winner, but I'll tell you what, when all of us on the panel on Hockey Night in Canada were talking off camera, my vote was for Rask. Even though Ryan O'Reilly is phenomenal and he's a deserving winner as well, I just think that Rask is one of today's best goaltenders.
Jonesy, you were a teammate of Alex Tanguay, another worthy candidate at number 40. He's a history maker. He is, in the modern era, the only player under 22 to score the cup clincher and score 3 points in the cup clinching game. What was he like as a teammate?
Well, I was only a teammate for a short time with him, Tony. As soon as he arrived in Colorado, I knew I was on my way out. I watched him I saw him in training camp. I'm like, oh my God, this isn't going to last long. But Tanguay was a really talented passer. And a big reason why star players wanted to play with Alex Tanguay was his ability to set them up. You gave him the puck, and there was a really high percentage that puck was going to come back to you and not in your skates. It was going to be right on your tape, and you'd have a good chance of scoring a goal.
When I started watching him in Calgary, he was such a great playmaker because he was so clever and knew when to pass the puck. You know, he was a great player, but I'm still going with Zetterberg.
I love the use of the word clever. A clever writer, Nick KOTSONIKA, joining us now. Was it as clear to the NHL.com panel of voters as it was to our experts? Number 40, Henrik Zetterberg, the best to ever wear it.
Well, you didn't have to be clever with this one. It's Henrik Zetterberg, with apologies to Tuukka Rask. This guy was drafted in the 7th round in 1999, 210th overall. When the Red Wings won the Cup in 2008, he became the second European to win the Conn Smythe after Lidstrom in 2002. The other thing I love about Zetterberg is how he followed Yzerman and Lidstrom in the succession of Detroit captains. And he bled red even when that team started to decline. I think it was really poetic that his 1,000th NHL game was the last game at Joe Louis Arena. For us, it's Zetterberg at number 40.
What a career he had. We're going to take a break here on our countdown. A promising debate awaits. We're going to get to number 34, and when we do, a couple of outstanding goalies and a young American superstar. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back to NHL's Who Wore It Best with Kelly Hrudey and Keith Jones. The Esposito name is royalty in hockey, and we have arrived at number 34. A couple of great goalies at this number, Kelly. And how about Auston Matthews? Who's your guy?
Oh, man. Can't we make it easier? Like, why do you guys make it so difficult on Keith and I? Like, seriously. Again, I'm looking at the two goaltenders on the list, Kiprusoff and Van Beesbrook, of whom I admire greatly for different reasons. So I'm going to start with Kiprusoff. And Kiprusoff was in San Jose. He got off to a pretty good start. He was a minor leaguer for a little bit and a pretty decent start to his NHL career. But Daryl Sutter had him when he was with the San Jose Sharks. Now, Daryl's in Calgary, and he thought that Kiprusoff had the potential to be better than even Nabokov, who was a great goaltender, and Toskala that they had in San Jose. So to me, he sort of took a bit of a chance on Kiprusoff. So I was really happy to see Kiprusoff for all those years get it back on track. And in my opinion, he was the team MVP for most of those years, even though that he shared the spotlight with Jerome McGinley. Now, moving to John Van Beesbrook, he was a star all along. The way in which he approached the game, like, he had charisma. You know, some guys just play the game, but they don't have that charisma that you sort of you gravitate towards. And that's why I think he was a perfect pick for the Florida Panthers in the expansion draft. He was the Panthers, in my opinion. They had a good group of really hardworking guys, but he is the reason why the Panthers had success early on. And because of both guys so successful, but what John did for the game as a U.S.-born goaltender, 374 wins, second most of all U.S. goaltenders. I'm going to give the nod to John Van Beesbrook.
I had a chance, Kelly, to play with Beezer in Philadelphia before his career ended, and had a couple of seasons with John. So he was an extremely competitive player still at that point in his career. I'm going to go with Auston Matthews, and I'm looking into the future here. I think that he's going to be the most memorable number 34 in NHL history. I think he's that good. I think he's that much of a unique talent. I love the fact that he's got size, he has strength, and he has skills that very few that have played this game have. The shot to go along with that, which also is extremely rare. I think the upside is just off the charts for Auston Matthews, and I think he's going to be the best guy to ever wear number 34 before it's all said and done.
He is on a very special trajectory. I'll never forget the night he was drafted first, just minutes before he was to be drafted. We interviewed him, and he was so calm. My heart's racing. I said, you're about to be the 7th American to go first overall. That's such a huge deal. He looks me straight in the eye before we're on camera, and he just slowly reveals that he's wearing American flag socks. I swooned. It was incredible. Let's get Nick KOTSONIKA in here and find out where the writers stand on 34. Who wore it best all time?
We picked Miikka Kiprusoff over John Van Beesbroek. I'm with Keith. I think Austin Matthews might be the pick in the future, maybe the near future. But Kiprusoff has the edge because of the run he had with Calgary from 2003 to 2012. Not only did he win the Vezina, he was runner-up once and third in the voting another time. He was in the top 4 in the voting for the Hart Trophy twice. He had 7 straight 30-win seasons. The only goalies who have more in NHL history are Martin Brodeur and...
Smooth transition, Patrick Roy. What a dominant career for Roy with 2 different chapters, obviously excelling with the Canadiens and then with the Avalanche. That takes us to number 32. If you're a Kings fan, you know, in order to go to the Cup final, you got to have a 32 between the pipes. In 93, it was Kelly Hrudey. And in 12 and 14, Jonathan Quick. Jonesy, are you going with a Kings netminder?
I should, with Kelly doing the show with me, but as great as Kelly was, there's another 32 that's near and dear to my heart. Former teammate and former captain, that's Dale Hunter of the Washington Capitals. Started with the Quebec Nordiques. Of all the players that I know really well in the league, Dale Hunter is the one player that deserved to win a Stanley Cup more than anyone that didn't win one. He is an absolute winner that did not have the good fortune of having great teams around him to get him up and over the top. You talked about Patrick Roy a little while ago. He didn't have Patrick Roy until the last cup of coffee in his career when he stopped in Colorado before he retired. Dale Hunter had over 1,000 points. He had over 300 goals, and he had over 3,000 penalty minutes. When the game was played with an edge, and when the game needed a momentum change, Dale Hunter provided that. He had great advice for me once, Tony. He said, Jonesy, because I looked a guy in the eye before getting into a fight, and I looked a little hesitant. And Dale Hunter, after we were having dinner at his house, and he said, hey, Jonesy, if there's $500,000 sitting on this kitchen table, and somebody walks in that door and grabs the $500,000 and walks out of the house, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to grab him. He goes, no, you're going to fight him. And by not fighting in the NHL at this time, you're costing yourself $500,000.
Wow, Dale Hunter.
It stayed with me forever. And he is, to me, the best 32 to ever wear it.
Great wisdom. Kelly, who do you have at 32?
Okay, well, I'm going to make this a little bit easier because when I saw my name on the list, I thought, well, you can scratch that one off pretty quickly because I was only the 2nd best goalie in LA history to wear 32. So Jonathan Quick has me by a country mile. Listen, I love Jonathan Quick and what he's accomplished. And Keith, I admire all the things that you said about Dale Hunter and so accurate, and I really admire him as well. But I'm going to go with Claude Lemieux. Now, I do think that Dale Hunter was a better regular season player. Claude Lemieux was a really good player in the regular season, but where he stands out to me is his play in the playoffs. And there was something about the way in which he approached the game. A reckless abandon is a way that I think I can describe the way in which he played. He was skilled, of course, a great skater, but a big, big body. This was a difficult one too, but I'm going to go with Claude Lemieux.
Another split decision with Keith and Kelly. Nick KOTSONIKA in the writer's room among the NHL.com panel. Who wore it best all time? Number 32.
Dale Hunter won our vote, but this one was really interesting. You know, Kelly, you got a couple 3rd place votes from us. Claude Lemieux definitely got some love, but you look at Claude Lemieux, 3 of the 4 championships he won in number 22, including the year he won the Conn Smythe. For us, it's Dale Hunter. If you look at number 32, only once is it retired in the NHL, and it's for Dale Hunter in Washington. He's 6th in games played and 6th in points in Capitals history. He had the team record in playoff points until Alex Ovechkin broke it. For us, number 32 is Dale Hunter.
And clearly esteemed by his teammates. We often say, you can fool the fans, you can fool the media, but hearing Jonesy talk about him, my goodness, Dale Hunter, what a gentleman. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the closest vote of the entire competition. Number 31, 4 incredible goalies. And it's a razor-thin win. Come right back. NHL's Who Wore It Best, and at number 31, Kelly, these are names that every hockey fan knows just by their last name. FUHR, Smith, Price, Joseph. How do you even choose between those 4?
Oh my gosh, right? So first of all, I want to say, I hope there comes a day when we can say that all 4 of them are in the Hockey Hall of Fame, because I think their careers speak to that. But Billy Smith to me is the guy. And certainly I am biased because I played with Billy for 5.5 years on the island. And I learned so much about the game from Billy, not only on the ice, but I think more so off the ice. I remember times as a young goaltender, and I'm starting to get a little bit closer to Billy in terms of ability. And at times a coach might start me when Billy thought that he should have been getting the nod. And I can always remember Billy barging into the coach's office, whether it's Al Arbor or Terry Simpson, pleading his case. And I'm thinking, what? Like, I'm getting the start. You can't sort of undermine me. But the lesson I learned is you have to fight for yourself too. If you were going to win it, if you're going to beat me out, fine, but I wasn't going to give it to you. And so I'm going to go for my buddy Billy Smith in this category.
It's a great story, Kelly, and it's not surprising after watching Billy Smith play. As a young child, I was watching Islanders win Stanley Cups, and they were the team that everybody wanted to emulate. And so I have a great amount of appreciation for what he did at that position. But I'm going to go with Grant FUHR. Those Oiler teams were pretty darn good as well, and Grant FUHR had a lot to do with their success and the ability to play no matter what the score was and be mentally ready for the next save. A lot of goaltenders in today's game talk about the mental side of things and, erasing that goal that just got past them. Nobody did it better than Grant FUHR, and nobody was tested as much as Grant FUHR was. The 80s, that game was wide open, as you know well, and there was multiple A-quality opportunities that were coming your way. Hats off to Grant FUHR. He is my selection, but those are 4 pretty darn good goaltenders, and I agree with you. They should all be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Our guys, a polite disagreement, and these 4 all worthy of praise. Nick KOTSONIKA, how did the writers see it? Who wore it best all time? Number 31.
Grant FUHR beat Billy Smith, but I think it says something that out of 99 numbers, some of them really, really difficult, that this was our closest vote. I mean, each won the Vezina. Each was in the net for the Cup championship 4 times. Each is in the Hall of Fame. Each is one of the 100 greatest players. Smith won the Conn Smythe too, and Grant FUHR never did that. But FUHR was in the top 6 in voting for the Vezina 6 other times. He played longer and won almost 100 games more than Smith did. When he retired, FUHR's 403 wins were 6th most in NHL history. For us, that puts Grant FUHR number 1 at number 31.
We can understand why it was the closest vote. Nick KOTSONIKA, Keith Jones, Kelly Hrudey, great work. This has been so much fun. Great discussions, great debates. I'm Tony Lupton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.